Hello and welcome to episode 23 of the Lottie and Albert podcast. My name is Lindsey and I am a crochet designer and editor from the Cotswolds in the UK. This is my podcast all about crochet. I'm going to be talking about what I've been finishing, making and buying. I've also got the results of my book giveaway coming up, so stay tuned at the end for that. So as I said, my name is Lindsey. I am Lottie and Albert everywhere on the internet. I'm most active on Instagram. You can also find me on Ravelry and Etsy. And this is episode 23, so welcome back if you are a returning viewer, and a really big warm welcome if you're watching for the first time. Really hope you enjoy spending a bit of time with me today, and if you do, please feel free to hit the like or the thumbs up. It really helps spread the podcast love and get it out there, and helps me find new people and new viewers to chat to. So really big warm welcome to everybody. Everybody is really welcome. I'm filming at a different time this week, which feels a little bit strange. It's the evening rather than the morning when I normally film, and my small people are in bed, so hopefully that's where they'll stay. But yeah, evening light. And also I have a new phone, which I'm feeling the camera is maybe too good on, and actually I don't want to see my face in this much detail, but there we go. We'll focus on the crochet. I'm going to start by talking about finished objects, of which I have one this week, which wasn't even a work in progress really last time when I saw you 2 weeks ago, and it's just something that I'm a little bit in love with, but I just randomly made it, didn't really have a plan. I've gotten quite into buying houseplants, haven't we all? And I wanted to make a few covers for the sort of just cheap pots that a lot of them are in. I have had this t-shirt yarn for ages. If you've been a long-term viewer, you'll remember that when I went to Scotland last June, I ended up buying loads of yarns, one of which was Wool and the Gang mixtape yarn. I actually bought it for a project that I was working on at the time, which was a crochet belly basket, which was actually a pattern from Molly Makes, who at the time had commissioned me and who I actually now work for. That was just a bit of a coincidence. I bought this t-shirt yarn thinking it might be good for that project. It turned out that they wanted something brighter, which was fine, but I've just had it in my cupboard ever since. So if you haven't worked with it before, the Wool and the Gang mixtape yarn, it's basically a t-shirt yarn, and it says it's upcycled from t-shirt scraps, but the construction is quite different to other t-shirt yarns. Well, it feels quite different. I don't know if you're going to be able to see because I never have that zoomy function, but it is, trying to like cover the camera. It's just more of this can sound silly because obviously most t-shirt yarn is knitted, but it's more of an obviously knitted fabric, and they have set colorways. So a lot of t-shirt yarn that you buy is really one of a kind, or you can only get a couple of balls of it, and if you do, you have to buy them at the same time because the chances of you getting a repeat of that pattern, by the nature of the fact they're made from textile waste, is unlikely. But the Wool and the Gang mixtape yarn range, they do always sell the same colours, so I'm not really sure what that means about the process, but this colour is the sand. No, it's not the sand. This colour is called Sahara Dust. So that's what the base of the basket is made, and it's just a circle. And I finished it with something I just kind of made up as I went along. I was going to do a crab stitch, and I sort of did a crab stitch, but I slip stitched it rather than single crochet. So crab stitch, if you've never done it, is single crochet worked in the opposite direction. So I worked in the opposite direction, but I basically slip stitched in the other direction. So I suppose what I've actually done is surface crocheted into the last row, which I think just adds a little bit of a rim and makes it look a little bit more finished. And then these tassels, which I think really make it, again, I just kind of had an idea that I wanted to put tassels on, and I was trying to put other t-shirt yarn and it just wasn't sitting right, and it was sitting too heavily. And I actually messaged my friend Emily from Makey, and she said, why don't you just use a different yarn? So I ended up using This, which is Rico Creative Cotton, and that's why they all look slightly different. So you can see this is darker, getting slightly lighter as you go around the basket. And that's because this yarn is basically an ombre yarn. I don't know how well you can tell. You can tell better by looking inside. So it goes from sort of dark through to light, and it has this amazing texture, which I think looks like rickrack. Anybody remember rickrack? I'm sure you can still buy it. It's a haberdashery trim that's really wavy, like this basically, but bigger. If you have lived in the 80s or 90s and were female, I'm sure you probably would have encountered rickrack on skirts. So this is actually called Zigzag DK, and it's this really awesome ombre look. And I was sent, I think I've got about 10 balls of this. I sent it by Hobbycraft because it's a yarn that they have recently started stocking. And I am still thinking that I might make a cardigan or a jumper or something out of it, but I thought that I would try it for these tassels, and I really love it. So yeah, just a little quick t-shirt yarn bowl. Having said that, it was to cover up plants. It's not really tall enough to cover up any of my plants, unless I maybe make a kind of terrarium type setup, and I have several small ones. So it might just end up being a kind of stash pot for keys and cards and all the other stuff that you just throw down, and it'll probably just then become full of rubbish. But it'll look pretty. So that is my one finished object for this week. The only other thing I have, which sort of comes into the finished object category, is today, Saturday the 5th of May, was the draw day for the Little Huts for Grace raffle blankets. A couple of you have messaged me and asked me how it's been going, and I'm sure if you've watched before you might remember that the last time I spoke about them I was being a little bit hard on myself. I think because they've taken me quite a while to finish, longer than I'd anticipated, and I was just really worrying that we weren't going to raise any raffle money. So if you don't know what I'm talking about, around last October, myself and just little Jen decided to do a charity crochet along blanket to raise money for a charity that was close to our hearts, who had helped a friend of ours, little girl, who was born with half a heart. So long story short, we launched 7 designs with the help of some amazing designers, and crocheters from all over the world made up the squares and sent them to us in their droves. We had, I think, over 350 squares, and they were all sent to me to our local yarn store in Stitches in Stroud, and we then joined them all together. I had the help of a fab team on one day, and then for the next month or two I joined the rest of them myself, and then for the last, I think, 6 weeks or so, we've been raffling them locally. I'll show you them while I'm talking to you about them. We raffled them locally. This is one of them. They're all about single bed size. So this, as you can see, is all the sort of brights and fun colours. This second one is more pastels. So more of the pastel squares. I'm trying to hold them the right way up. Which is my fave. I love have a thing about pastels. Here are all the pastel ones together. I'm just not possible to show you the whole blankets, but if you watch back a couple of podcasts, then I do show them in all their amazing glory. So if you made a square, or you just want to see what they look like, then go back a few podcasts and check them out. I think the cover image of the podcast that I talk about the finished blankets in is the actual finished blanket, so you should be able to find it. And this was all of the dark purples and light purples. So we raffled them locally, and myself and Jen and our friend Jo, who is the mum of Grace, all split up the raffle tickets and sold the raffle tickets. And I was just kicking myself for a while because I was really worrying that we weren't going to raise much, and that if we'd done an online raffle, although technically illegal in the UK, we could have earned so much more money. And so we all got together a few days ago, or tried to. My little boy had a sickness bug, so actually they got together and then they dropped the tickets round to me. And we have raised, I haven't got the exact total, but I know that you'll be interested if you have made a square. We have raised over £950, which I am so thrilled with. And in addition, my husband recently, last weekend, ran a marathon. We are quite different. He's into sports, I'm into crafts. He ran a marathon and he raised in a separate fund over £500 for Little Hearts Matter, which was one of the charities we were supporting with the blankets. So I am really so happy and so pleased that we were able to raise that much money, and we could not have done it without all of your guys' help who supported and shared our story and made squares such as these beautiful ones. So thank you so much if you were involved in that. Today, as I said, was the draw date. I have drawn a winner, but I haven't contacted her yet. I rang earlier and didn't get through, so I'm not going to say who it was on here. I think it's unlikely as she's a local lady that she'll be watching this podcast, but you never know. So I will, I won't say the name, but a winner has been drawn for one of the blankets. Grace is having one of the blankets. And then we are hoping to donate the third blanket to the Ronald McDonald House, which is a place near Bristol Hospital where you can go and stay if your child is long-term sick or in hospital and there isn't space for you to stay in hospital. So, counting that as another finished object. It's been a long time coming. I think when Jen and I first started talking about it last autumn, we didn't quite realise how much time it would span, but yeah, we started talking about it. I asked designers if they were happy to design squares. I gave them a month to design and submit their designs. Then we gave people a couple of months to make it, and it was sort of December and January, and then yeah, they started coming in, and then we joined them, and then we've been raffling it for about 6 weeks, so yeah, like a good 6 months almost in total. But like I said, so pleased and so thrilled that we have raised so much money. So thank you again if you made a square or 8 as some people did, and send them in, because again, like I said, I just can't thank you enough. So works in progress wise, I'm going to move these blankets because they're actually taking up a lot of space. Works in progress wise, I have actually been working on a commission for Molly Makes. If you're a first time viewer, I work for Molly Makes Craft magazine, which I love, and very occasionally I do projects myself with the magazine and then instantly regret it because I realise and remember how much time it takes. Anyway, I've been working on, I can see it on the floor, I've been working on a as yet secret commission for Molly Makes. It's crochet, but it's slightly unusual materials, I'll tell you that much. And I love working with different materials or unusual materials, which is partly why I wanted to take that project on myself. So I'm really excited to share that with you in a couple of months when the magazine comes out. I've also been working on my hat that I showed you last time, which I'm definitely going to do as a pattern. I did a little call out on Instagram the other day because we're into May now here in the UK, and I'll just show you, this is a little bit of the smaller one that I'm making, but it is curling slightly. This is a snippet of a hat. I've made an adult size and a child size, and this is the baby size. I'm using a mohair and a blend. Let's go with that. It's really soft. This is from Coastal Yarns and this is from Rico, and I'll put all of the details in the description box if you want to know the exact brands. But look at that fluff, oh my goodness, the fluff is amazing. And yes, this is the little snippet of a hat. You can see the pattern. As I was just saying, I put a little call out on Instagram because it's May here. We're actually having a little bit of a heat wave again this weekend. It's getting really warm and I'm working on a hat pattern. I was like, is there something wrong with me? Do I need to go and get more sleep? Does anybody actually want to make a hat pattern? And loads of people in Australia and New Zealand sent me messages saying, yes, please, we'd like to make hats. Because obviously it is autumn somewhere. So I'm going to carry on with it because I'm really enjoying it. I love this little pattern. It is crochet, it's all front post trebles, and it will have a brim on it. So again, if you really like the look of that, if you watched last time's, then I talked about that hat pattern in more detail. It doesn't have a name yet. Let's just call it work in progress hat. That's one thing I've been working on. Another thing that I have been working on is my Atomic Flowers blanket. This is a bag that my husband bought me for Christmas a little while ago. I just crochet and ignore all my adult problems. He was so pleased with himself for buying me that bag. But I do like a good big project bag. Having said that, I've literally just got balls of yarn in that and not actually what I want to show you. This is what it's actually in. My Hello bag. My Atomic Flowers blanket, goodness me, I'm rambling already, is a pattern that is free on my blog. I originally made it for Hobbycraft and I used Debbie Bliss Odin, which is a really big chunky yarn. For this one I'm using DK, scraps of DK, and I haven't sewn my ends in. Does anybody sew their ends in as they go? I don't, apparently. So that's that one. I have started doing it join as you go, but also I have now all these lovely stacks of finished squares, and that's basically what I've been working on, is finishing them all up into a square format. Another little pile here. So they are nearly all now ready to go and add to the bigger blanket. They're not going to be as big as the Little Hearts for Grace blanket. This is how they start out, with a circle and sort of petals, and then I square them off into this shape. And then I'll join as I go on top of that, so I end up with an extra round of white on at the end. Yeah, every time my little girl saw me making the Little Hearts for Grace blankets, she'd be like, "Is one of those my blanket, Mummy?" And I'm like, no, I've been making this since last June. I mean, okay, you must understand, I have quite a lot of blankets in my house, quite a lot of crochet blankets. My daughter has something like 3 patchwork blankets and a crochet blanket, which is basically in rotation on her bed at any one time. So she's not freezing, she's not lacking for blankets, but I have been making this since June. Again, when I went to Scotland, when I bought that yarn, I was making these. So it hasn't seen much action in the last couple of months. Here are some of the colours. But yeah, I just had an urge to work on it again the other day, and so I picked it up, and I'm really pleased that I'm at this stage because yeah, it's not far away from being finished, she says. Famous last words, but no. Funnily enough, I actually think that granny square blankets are quite a good thing to work on when it is warm. And I'll tell you for why, though that sounds weird. Because if you're only working on one little square at a time, it's not actually that hot. It's not like working on a blanket that's got big rows back and forth. So if you're doing your squares, it's quite a nice little on the go and hot weather project. And then just wait for a cooler evening, like balancing all of these, just wait for a cooler evening to join them all together. Top tips over here, that's the kind of quality content you get if you watch this podcast. That's my Atomic Flowers blanket. I also have my Crochet Between the Lines shawl, which I have been working on this very day. We went to a family party today, which was about 3 hours there in the car and 3 hours on the way back, hence why I'm filming this in the evening in the funny light. And my husband drove, bonus, so I got about 6, well, I say 6 hours crochet. I was also constantly passing snacks and drinks and iPads and various other forms of Peppa Pig entertainment into the back seat, as I'm sure anybody will sympathise with if you have children or have ever taken a long car journey with children. But I did manage to put quite a few lines on my Crochet Between the Lines shawl. So again, if you are a long-term viewer, you will have seen this a few times because I've been working on it for some time. But it is essentially in a tangle. A shawl project which uses 2 Scheepjes whirls. We're going to go with that. And I am using Lavendelicious and Blueberry Bam Bam. They're gradient ombre variant yarns caked into cake shapes. This is what I mean by saying Scheepjes. And you can't tell the full colour gradient here because a lot of it has already worked up into the shawl, but essentially mine started at really dark purple. I know it looks black on camera, but it is actually dark purple. And then it changes slowly but surely. Somebody actually said something on one of my earlier podcasts where I think I'd only done about this much. And I was like, look, I've hit the first colour change. They were like, are my eyes broken because I can't see any colour change here? It is really subtle and gradual, but that is what is gorgeous about the yarn, and also really clever about this pattern, because you almost can't see it until you see the contrast of them next to each other, and then it really hits you. And so the longer I go with this, the more pronounced the colour change will be. At the moment I'm into sort of light pink, there's no pink, light blue. You see here it's just going slightly darker, and then a kind of really pale lilac-y purple, and the purple is actually getting lighter. And so this is the purple where I am, it's going to get even lighter again, and this is the blue where I am, and it's going to get even darker. So they'll almost swap around. I intentionally chose 2 colours that had a really high contrast. If you want to do the pattern, you obviously still can. And if you're thinking about choosing yarns, you can start either from the inside of the cake or the outside. I started from the inside, and so I chose 2 yarns that I just really liked, which actually had really high contrast in the middle. So it was actually the blue cake that started out white, and the purple cake that started out really dark purple. And so they've also got a fairly high contrast towards the end as well. So I don't know if I'll actually get to the very end, but even if I'm only at this kind of light purple and this darker blue here, that's still quite a high contrast. So it kind of goes from high contrast here, working into more of a subtle colour mix here. In fact, the further you move away from the camera, the more subtle it is. And then it will go high contrast again. And so when it's wrapped around, it's going to look so stunning. I mean, I'm already pretty pleased with it. I'm trying to find the right ends to hold it up. I'm already pretty pleased with it and the colours. And looking at it like that, I'm a little bit like, oh my goodness, I can't believe I made that. It also has this really cool kind of optical effect, which I always try and show by like looking like a bit of an elephant. You look at it flat and you can see the colour difference, but then look at it on an angle and it's even more pronounced, which I think is really cool. It's such a clever design because actually it's just really simple stitches. In fact, it's all single crochet US terms or double crochet UK terms. It's just that some of the stitches are worked into the back loop, and then when you're coming back the other way, you work through the unworked front loop. If that makes sense. I mean, obviously, I haven't given the entire paid pattern away by saying that, but by saying that, what I'm trying to say is, it looks incredibly complicated, or fairly complicated. It's all actually one stitch, or variant thereof on one stitch, and it's just a really clever colour play. And I love variegated yarns and yarns that change colour, and I think it's partly because my attention span is not the best, shall we say. I lose interest over longer projects, and so I love a colour change because, I mean, I don't need much excitement in life, but a colour change is enough for me. That'll keep me interested. So yeah, that's my crochet between the lines shawl. The handle of the designer on Instagram is Canada. I think she is called Tammy, and I always forget, I think she's got a double-barreled surname, but I'll have put it, future me will edit and put it below. I'm conscious that the light is fading. I mean, it's still sunny outside, but you can definitely tell it's evening. Got a bit of a kind of golden hour thing going on outside my window, which is beautiful, but I'm not quite sure what it's going to look like camera-wise for you guys. My crochet between the lines shawl is in a project bag that my mum made me for Christmas. It's got a little label inside. I'll just show you. How sweet is this? Made with love. Thanks, Mum. She doesn't watch. She tells me she hasn't got time to watch, but thanks anyway, Mum. Love you. So that's another work in progress. My commission, my Atomic Flowers blanket, my hat, and my crochet between the lines shawl. I'm whizzing through, so I'm really enjoying all of those. I obviously have others. I'm still doing my giant knitting, and I don't know, I'm sure there are projects that you've seen me mention or heard me mention. I'm still working on them. If I haven't shown you the finished one, just assume that I'm still working on them. I'm not going to make any promises anymore for when things will be finished. So I'm going to quickly talk about new things, and then I will move on to the giveaway winners for the Amigurumi 7 books, which I announced last week. So first up in the new things category, I had, honestly, I've buried everything under the blanket. I had the Rico yarn, the ombre yarn, which I used for this, which I'm really loving. So that was one that Hobbycraft sent me. I think the official title is Yarn Ambassador for Hobbycraft and for Knitcraft. So when they get new yarns, they often send me them. I was also been sent this Rico Fashion Cotton Métallice, which is really fun. I haven't made anything with it yet. It's a kind of gold, but quite a warm beigey gold, soft colour. Oh, and actually the sparkles are showing it really well in this evening light. Oh, so sparkly. So you get singing at this time of the evening, apparently. Yeah, this is a yarn that I haven't used yet. It looks like, it says use a 4mm hook, but it feels quite thin. I'd say it's a thin DK. 50 gram, 53% cotton, 35% acrylic, and 12% metallic yarn. Do you know, the one thing I would say about this yarn, having not used it, there's not much I can say other than it looks really nice. It's also really soft. Often metallic yarns can feel quite scratchy and also fibrous and loose. I don't know how well you can see, but this metallic section of this yarn has actually been worked into the yarn. So this is a chainette construction, and so the metallic threads are caught inside the chains that make up the length of the yarn rather than wrapped around the outside, which I think sometimes, well, certainly the pound shop metallic yarns that I've used have been wrapped around the outside, and it can make them feel quite scratchy, and also sometimes the metallic part can almost break off, and when it breaks you then end up with sections where you don't have the metallic part. So I think this is a really sensible, clever way to do it. That metallic yarn isn't going anywhere, and yeah, it's really soft. Maybe it's the cotton. Didn't actually look at the fibre content before just then, but you can really feel the cotton in it. I want to make some little cloud hair clips for my daughter with that. I think that'll be really nice. So those are two of my new yarns that I've been sent. I've also purchased, I know, some new yarns. They look like little octopuses. These are 2 skeins of Bobbiny. This is 100% recycled cotton. Bobbiny is quite a popular brand for t-shirt yarn and other such fibres. This is a really thick cord. This one is called Rainbow Dust. It's showing up quite dark on camera. That's probably a bit more true. And it's basically an off-white with lots of flecks of colour through it, which I love. This just really speaks to me. this colour. And this is bint, as you can see. And I have plans for these. I think I mentioned last time that I want to do a little series of sort of children's homewares pieces, and so I've got some plans for these yarns. They're going to be part of that. When I'll get round to it is another matter, but I've bought the yarn. Don't know where they're best light-wise. Oh, it's doing weird things, I'm sorry. But yeah, I actually wanted 2 of this rainbow dust one, but I couldn't find it anywhere. I eventually got these from Amber, Thread the Love, of her bricks and mortar yarn store, and she very kindly posted them out to me. But she only had 1, and I couldn't find, I think there were some on the actual Bobbiny website, but because they're based in Europe, in Poland, even to the UK, the postage was fairly high, so I was trying to find a UK seller, and everywhere they were just out of stock. I think it's a new colourway that's obviously proved popular. But yeah, I haven't used Bobbiny before. I've used t-shirt yarn, but this is much more of a kind of cord that you would maybe use for macrame, and it's 5mm thick itself. It says 5mm on the back, but I'm fairly confident that that doesn't mean use a 5mm hook. I think this is more of a 10mm hooker. But I'll let you know when I've actually made something out of them. That's another new things category. Lastly, I just want to show you the latest issue of Molly Makes, not because I'm trying to push it down your throats, but because I really want to make this gorgeous little doll that I commissioned for the front cover. She is made out of a sort of calico cotton material, and then you know, these are sort of cottons, but I have an idea that I would like to make her dress out of my wedding dress, and her hair is like a kind of roving material, and I have some white roving from Woolly Mahoosive that I'm currently using to make my giant knitted. So I have in my head a visage of a little girl doll with like really pretty white lace dress, maybe like a nice little gold or pink net underskirt or something, and then white hair, so really kind of muted but pretty. If you're in slight shock that I'm going to cut up my wedding dress, don't worry, because I've already cut up my wedding dress before. When my little girl had her naming day, we had a naming day for her instead of a christening. Basically the same sentiment. We appointed guide parents rather than godparents, and we had a celebrant. I'm trying to find the actual project in the mag. Yeah, so for her naming day, I made her a dress out of my wedding dress. I'll just show you a few pictures of the dolly being made. She's so cute. This is her, the cover star. She was made by a very talented designer called Mariana Volkova. Just handily reading that off the other side. And this is issue 92 of Molly Makes, if you fancy making one as well. There's also a really nice, I'm getting distracted now, I know. There's a nice crochet, there's a couple of nice crochet projects in here for you crochet diehards. A Gorgeous Mobile by Little Happy Gorgeous, Charlotte's creation, and this really fun cushion, which is by Hanjan Crochet. I basically just wanted a pom-pom cushion, and I love this styling, kind of like how I'd like my little girl's room to look. Anyway, my wedding dress, I already cut it up. When we had our naming day for our little girl, I made her a dress out of it. And when we had our naming day for my little boy, I made him a bow tie out of it. I had a really long train. It got stood on and grubby at the wedding. I can't imagine that my daughter would want to wear my wedding dress again, but if she does, she still can, because I basically, my daughter was about 1 when she had her naming day. I made the bodice of the dress out of the bottom part of my dress. So I just cut a section about this deep and this wide out of the bottom of my train. So it does now just have a big hole in it, but I also never got it dry clean, so it also has a massive stain down the back. Somebody at my own wedding obviously spilt a full drink of something all down my back. and didn't tell me. And when I first put my dress away after the wedding, you couldn't tell at all, but obviously over time the stain has emerged. So I mean, I think the dress is fairly messy anyway. If somebody did want to wear it in the future, it would need work to get it wearable. So I kind of figured taking a chunk out of the hem wasn't the end of the world. They could just have a slightly shorter hem if they really wanted to wear it. So I don't feel that cutting up another tiny section to make this doll is gonna be the end of the world, but I also think the idea behind this doll is that it's a modern heirloom doll. So, you know, you make it and you hand it down to your daughter or friend's daughter or niece or granddaughter or grandson. I'm not judging. My little boy plays with dolls all the time. But yeah, so it's a really modern, lovely doll, but it is an heirloom doll. And I really like that idea. So I think making it out of my wedding dress will feel that bit more special. That's it. Last but not least, before the giveaway, I've just noticed in the Molly magazine about Kirsty Allsop's handmade fair. Again, it's not an advert, but if anybody is going next weekend, so the 11th to the 13th at Ragley Hall in Warwickshire, I'm actually going to be there on the Saturday in the Molly Makes tent. So come and say hello. It would be really awesome to meet you. I'll either be in the Molly Makes tent or I'll be generally wandering around. So if you happen to be there next Saturday at Kirsty Allsop's handmade fair, then please pop over and say hello. And if you aren't there on Saturday but you're there on Friday or Sunday, come over and check out the Molly Makes tent, because we have a cafe and we also are having workshops in the cafe that you can join in with. And on the main stage, Molly Makes are also doing mashups where two designers go head to head to design an item. I haven't actually been to one before because I didn't work for Molly Makes this time last year, so I'm really excited. I was kind of hoping that, you know, I'd be meeting Kirsty Allsop, she of TV craft and property fame, but apparently she gets mobbed to such an extent that she has to drive around in a little golf buggy. So I probably won't be flagging her down if she's in her golf buggy, but if I do have an opportunity to naturally meet and say hello to Kirsty, then obviously I'll get a selfie and I'll share it with you guys. So that is a doll I want to make, some fun crochet projects from 92, and me not stalking Kirsty Allsop next Saturday at the handmade fair. But if you are there, then please come and say hi. Last but not least, I am going to, well, I have already drawn just before I came on live, because it occurred to me that I needed to know the numbers on the comments and I needed to use my phone, and I record on my phone. So I have randomly number generated from the followers, from my subscribers who commented last time to say that they would like to be entered into the draw to win one of these 2 copies of Amigurumi 7. And I also wanted to just say thank you, because I basically just said, if you didn't watch last time, I just asked people, sorry little one, to leave me a comment about Amigurumi, whether it was just to say they'd never done it before and they wanted to, or to say they loved it and it was all they ever made. I just was intrigued to know, and you left some really fun comments, but also some really lovely comments, so thank you so much for all your lovely comments, full of love for the podcast. I will not digress. I'm going to read out the names, but then I'm going to tell you something else. The 2 winners for Amigurumi 7, who please contact me afterwards, either email me on the email in the description box, or you can contact me through Instagram if you have Instagram, are Olivia B and Beate Hyde. I'll put those names up on the screen as well, and I'll also comment on your comment from last episode, just in case there's more than one Olivia B watching or something. So congratulations, you get to win this lovely book. If you are not a winner, but you would like to purchase the book, then it is out now, and it is full of basically adorable patterns. So many people said they wanted to make the moose. He is really cute. I want to make the llama. This little guy I also love, and yeah, just they're all so cute. It's a book basically of amigurumi by loads of different designers, and the photography, I think I was saying last time, was something that I was really impressed with, because especially if you're new to amigurumi, it's got really detailed photography about all the different stages and the construction, which I think can sometimes be like the hardest part for amigurumi if you've never done it before, or maybe the most daunting part, because I know that lots of people really enjoy the crocheting, but then they feel a little bit less confident. Just look at how many photos there are for all those different stages. You're not going to go wrong with all those photos. I haven't been told to say that, FYI, I just think it's really useful. Yes, lots of people enjoy crochet, but the sewing is maybe not as familiar to them, or maybe they haven't sewn as much, and maybe that can be a bit off-putting for amigurumi. So I think books like this that go into so much detail, it's just an extra bonus. But yes, that is Amigurumi 7. Those 2 copies are coming out to you now, Olivia B and Beate Hyde. I have also let the 2 people who want on Instagram know on Instagram. So if you entered on there as well, if you haven't had a message from me, then I'm just trying to say I've now drawn all the winners. So there we go, that is Amigurumi 7. I also mentioned last time that this is the same publisher for Mandy from Crochet by Renegade, and Meteoor Books actually contacted me afterwards, and I don't know why I'm always so surprised when people watch my podcast, but they contacted me afterwards to say that I am definitely on the list for some review copies of Mandy's Crochet by Renegade book. So there will almost definitely be a giveaway happening for Mandy's book, probably around July, August time, which is when it goes on sale. So there we go. I also, just as a little last note, have, since I last podcast, also done a new live conversation on Instagram, which I have since uploaded to YouTube, and that was with Emma from Steel of Stitch. Emma was so lovely to talk to, and we talked about all sorts of things. She's doing a MA at the moment in sustainable design, and she's been published by so many different magazines and yarn companies, and she's got 3 books. So we talked a lot about publishing and how to get into publishing. So if anybody is a budding designer or just interested in the crochet publishing world, then check out that live, because we talked a lot about that. She also, which was one of my really big takeaways, talked about how she is inspired by nature, and how she takes a flower like this and basically breaks it down and says, okay, what colours are in this flower? We've got this really gorgeous pinky purple, we've got a white, we've got a little pop of yellow, we've got this really nice deep green colour. And then she will find yarns that match and wrap them around little cards, and she then keeps that as a library of colour inspiration from nature, so that next time she comes to do a blanket or a cushion or a project, she basically knows that those colours work really well together already, because if nature's done it for us, then she didn't say that corny phrase, but I wholeheartedly agree, and I thought I love her library swatches, so that's quite an interesting listen if you haven't watched the live and you would like to. I have coming up a few other guests. On this Monday, I'm going to be talking on Instagram to Katie Jones from Katie Jones Knit, which I think is going to be a really interesting one, because she actually studied fashion for 7 years, and she said that along the way, craft was basically a dirty word, and if you were too crafty, it was frowned upon, because it wasn't fashion if it was craft, and how she always felt a little bit like she needed to change her direction, because she's a crochet and knit just queen, and her work is so fun and bright and jazzy. If you haven't heard of Katie Jones Knit before, go and check her out. She was picked up when she finished uni as one of Selfridge's bright young stars. I'm not sure what the exact title is. And she had a massive window display in Selfridges in London, which is mega. And she's worked with some amazing sort of fashion labels and in some really big fashion shows. But interestingly, in the last kind of 18 months, she's really switched up her focus, and she's now actually focusing a lot more on the craft market and putting her patterns out as patterns that you at home can make and sell. So I'm really interested to talk to her about that. This isn't necessarily a plug. I've just started talking and I know I'm enthused, so now I can't stop talking. But I think that's going to be a really fun chat. So if you are interested and you are on Instagram, then you can catch that live on Monday, what's the date tomorrow? 7th of May. And if not, then I will be uploading it here to my YouTube channel in a few days afterwards. So if you're a subscriber on here, then you will see that video pop up and you can watch it. And if you're not interested at all, then that's absolutely fine, and I will catch you here again in 2 weeks next time. Thank you so much, as ever, for listening to me ramble. If you have enjoyed it, please feel free to leave me a comment. I love receiving your comments. It just makes me feel all warm and fuzzy inside to know that if you've enjoyed something or been interested by something I have talked about. And yeah, feel free also to hit like and subscribe. And if you subscribe and turn notifications on, then you will always get a little pop-up, ring a bell from, I think it happens up here, from YouTube telling me that there's a new video from me. So yeah, thank you so much for watching, and I'll see you again in 2 weeks' time. Bye-bye.